Hey, welcome to a new lesson. On this lesson, I want to talk about the compositions, which is a really important part of After Effects because it's really like the canvas on Illustrator on Photoshop. It's where everything happens, it's where all our objects or our backgrounds or in every part of the animation will show up. So, of course, it's really important because without a composition, we have nothing at all. So, the composition panel, you can see that it is on the middle part of the interface. Of course, you can drag these panels wherever you want, but I advise you that you leave it on the middle because that's the best place for it to be. So this is where the composition goes. As you can see, we have nothing. In fact, it says none here because we have no composition at all. So it's time to create a new one. And to do that, we're going to this composition tab here, and we are going to click on new composition. These are for other things that we're going to see later, but as we don't have any composition, it's unavailable now. So click on new composition, and a new pop-up menu will show up, and it's called composition settings. Here you can, of course, as the name says, you can select all the settings that you want the composition to have. For example, you can change the name. For in default is comp1. You can rename it as new composition if you want. And here you have the preset. For example, I already had it on HDTV 1080, and you can use whatever you want, whatever size that you want. As you can see, you have many options. You have 720, and you have all other options. You can also change the size manually. For example, if you don't want this size, you can alter the size however you want, or you can just click here and type a number. You can change the pixel aspect ratio. You can change the frame rate. This is the best one. This is the one that comes default. You can change the resolution of the composition, which you can change anytime you want. You don't. It's not like if you select full, it's always going to be on full. You can change this at any time because it's only for preview purposes. Now here on the start time code, you can change where you want the composition to start, at what frame, at what second you want to start. Obviously the default is 0, but you can make a composition start from second 10 or 1 minute later or something. Also, you can change the duration of this composition. Right now it's almost 5 minutes. If you want the composition to last for 30 seconds, then you would leave it as this, and this will last 30 seconds. Also, you can change the background color. Default is black, but you can change to any color that you want the composition, or you can even take the eyedrop tool and select a different color. You can see that this is changing to the color where I pass this cursor. But well, let's change it to black. You can see that it says black here. Now just hit OK, and now we have a new composition. You can see that this composition, well, it has a weird size because we made it vertical, and you can see that here on the project panel we have a new composition called new composition. So you can see that for the icon that we have, this composition doesn't appear right now on the timeline because the timeline itself is the composition. As you can see here, you can see that it shows new composition, which means that anything that we drop here on the timeline will show up here on this new composition that we just created. So let's bring again our face file that I had before. Alright, now let's drop all these layers here. Alright, in fact I'm going to delete them and drop the face composition into my main composition. Now I just have to delete all of them and place them here. Alright, now I have all these different layers in our main composition. So everything that happens here remains on this new composition that we just created. As you can see, if we click here, you can see the face in this part. So here in the composition panel, we have a lot of things going on right here on the bottom of the panel. For example, I have this zoom in. For it, right now it's on 50%. If I select 200%, it shows a lot closer, as you can see. But well, you can do this manually with the scroll on your mouse or with this tool. So it's not like you're going to use this a lot. You also have the option to select the titles action save, so that you know that all the important thing is right here on this square. I practically never use this. Right here is the current time. If you go to another second of the timeline, you can see how it changes. Here you can change the resolution. As I said before, you can change it anytime. Right now it's on full. Let's sharpen this a bit. Right now it's on full resolution. If we get half, you can see how it's pixelating a lot. And this is because, well, maybe our computers are not so fast, and when we are rendering where we are previewing some animation, some parts of the animation, if we are on full resolution, the computer will be really slow. So it's better to use half if it's not a problem for you. You also have the region of interest, where you can select any part of the composition that you want to focus on. You have the transparency grid. You can change the views to 2 views, horizontal or vertical, or even 4 views. This works really nice when we're working with 3D layers, but that we will get to that later. Also, you can change the exposure. I have never used this because I really don't see a point in changing this exposure, but there it is. So that's it for the composition. As you can see, it's just the place where everything goes. It's just the place where all the objects go, kind of like the canvas on Illustrator and Photoshop. But now I want to talk about pre-comp. And a pre-comp is like a composition inside another composition. For example, I'm going to create a simple animation of these 2 eyes. A really simple animation. I will get to that later, but I'm going to create a very simple one. Alright, I just created this animation. It's really simple, and as you can see, we have 2 layers here, layer 7 and layer 8, which are the eyes layers. So what if I want these 2 eyes to become another composition? There are many reasons to do that. One, for example, is that I don't want to work with so many layers. Sometimes we are working on an animation and we end up having like 15 layers in a composition, and that is insane because it takes a lot of time to realize what layer is what kind, and the timeline, as you can see, it's not so big, at least that you open this up, but it's not a better way to work. So maybe you want a pre-comp to group as many layers as you want, or maybe a set of layers has a different animation that you want to separate from the other layers. For example, I have these two eyes animated, and I will take these two layers, the eyes layers, and I'm going to layer and hit on pre-compose. Now it's going to ask if you want to change the composition name from, let's call, eyes, and it's asking to move all the attributes into the new composition. So I'm going to hit OK, and you can see that I now have a new composition. This composition, if we double click on it, we open this composition here. You can see on the timeline that we have different compositions. So the eyes composition has all the two layers with all the properties, the position properties for the animation. And now we can see the rest of the face because we're just looking at the both layers that we just pre-compose. So if we hit play here, you can see that the animation is still going on, but now it's just one layer, it's just one pre-comp. So as I said before, there are many reasons that for using a pre-comp, and we will get to that later. Throughout the course we're going to use pre-comps a lot, and you will see how important it is to have that option. Also, you see that on the project panel we now have a new composition, which is the eye pre-comp. So as you can see, when I open the eyes composition pre-comp, you can see that I end up having these attributes, the animation attributes. But what if I don't want the attributes to be on this pre-comp, but on the pre-comp itself? So let's go back, and we're going to click on this layer pre-compose, and it's now asking if we want to leave all the attributes in a new composition. So but let's call this left eye, and we hit OK. You can see that the animation, it's on the pre-comp, but not on inside the pre-comp on the layer itself. So as we work on the course, as we create things, as we learn things, we're going to know more about these pre-comps and compositions and how to work properly with them. Finally, if you go to the project panel, you can click on this part, project flowchart, and it's going to show the flowchart of this composition. You can see new composition here, and you can see the face composition, and you can even open them from here. Of course, you can see the left eye because this is not a composition but a pre-comp. Another very important thing is that you can change the composition settings anytime that you want. For example, if I want to change this, just go to composition and go to composition settings, and you can change anytime. Let's choose this, and let's change the background to maybe a yellow. Click OK, and as you can see, the composition is changed. So that is, of course, a really nice feature on After Effects, that you can change anytime the composition settings. So that's it for this lesson. Let's go to the next one.